Hello, my name is Ben,
And my name's Andrew.
and we are your hosts of the Too Vague podcast this week. Andrew, call in via satellite or whatever.
Yeah. Voice timing or whatever this is.
Yes, space time.
Yes.
I insist on calling it space time, even though it's called FaceTime.
We can call it space time.
Oh, excellent. You explained that to me last time, I think, right? Yeah, I think you did on a previous show.
We did. We talked about time and space.
Yeah.
Meaning.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Deep
And
stuff.
Since then, I've got my own Poang chair.
Yes, I was going to say, we're Poang twins.
Poang twins. That's right. I came to your podcast and I was like, I need one of these.
It's great. It's a wonderful, very relaxing chair. And then you can
Yeah.
also get the replacement cushions if you want. But
Yeah.
if you got the leather ones, I think those are the best ones. Leather or faux leather.
I may get those. This was a buy nothing score. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, it was pretty awesome. And then yeah, I could upgrade the cushions if I want at some point.
And if you need an Allen wrench, an extra Allen wrench, I got one for you.
Oh, I got a bucket of them.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
Because let me just say one thing about the Poang. You do need to tighten it every once in a while.
Oh yeah, that's one of the first things I did. I got it, and it smelled kind of like somebody else's dog.
Uh-huh.
And I cleaned it up, and I tightened up all the things, and polished it up with some I don't know, some wood polish stuff, just to make it shiny.
Right. Some pledge or whatever.
That's right. So yeah. So it was a very economical thing for me to do.
Yeah, nice.
Find something someone's going to throw away. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This is not the show about chairs this week.
On the show about chairs.
Unfortunately.
Sorry, yeah.
We should do a show on chairs.
There's a lot to be said about chairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a stool rant about a game that I played where it's just it's a post-apocalyptic future kind of thing. And then just randomly, these three-legged stools everywhere. I was like, why would you 3D print three-legged stools? I mean, it's not an economy thing where, you want to print more stools. Do you think?
I don't know. The one thing about a three-legged stool is they're not tippy.
Yes.
The only benefit I can see to that.
Not even talking about economies of three-legged stools. We're talking about the word today is economy.
Well, economy, and I also like the word economics.
Yes.
Which is like the scary version of economy, isn't it? Which one's the scarier word, economics or economy?
I don't know. As far as understanding what it is,
yeah,
I think economics is more scary.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily say scary. It's more complex. It has more controls, more possible blunders. Something like an economy can be built, whereas in economics, economies are already built. You can make fine adjustments to them, but it's not like...
What do I think? I think economics is the sort of looking at all kinds of ways people move stuff around between each other and figure out how to keep track of it and all that. And like an economy is just basically one subset. One country has its own economy.
Mm-hmm.
But if we want to talk about how an economy works, then we call it economics.
Yes. And it's like bunches of economies interacting.
Bunches of economies.
Yeah.
Everything's... Yeah, man, it's like the internet.
Globalization
was so great until it stopped working.
What do you mean?
Our global supply chain nonsense.
Oh, okay.
That was like the global economy. Like all of a sudden, we're like, we outsourced all this stuff, and now we can't get enough of it. I mean, here's the very first thing that happened in the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I remember listening to this NPR story where they were talking to somebody who manufactured medical grade face masks.
Right.
And he was saying, we're here in the news, and I'm talking to the government saying, how many of these do you want to buy? Because trying to figure out whether he wants to ramp up his production, because American production of those masks was mostly gone after the swine flu thing.
Mm.
Because all the companies really, upgraded all their production capacity.
Right.
And then the swine flu pandemic really wasn't that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
and it passed quickly. And then all those companies had manufacturing tools that they didn't need, and then they had to sell them, and then they didn't have the production capacity anymore.
Right.
And so this one company is like, well, United States, what do you want from what I can supply? Because I'm getting orders from all over the world right now.
Right.
And the administration of the government at that time was not too interested because they thought it would pass in like 2 weeks.
Right. Or that it didn't exist.
Or that it didn't exist or whatever. They're like, people are worrying for no reason.
Yeah.
But because all of the other manufacturing sources besides this one company had already left the United States,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have the production capacity to make a lot of them at home.
Right.
Until people started making them and selling them on the internet.
3D printing their I don't know.
They were sewing.
There's a supply and demand thing there that we can talk about possibly later. But
supply and demand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we get into that, and before we get into your latest zine and talking about that as it relates to economy and economics, let's briefly talk about the definition of the word economy. A noun, the wealth and resources of a country or region, especially in terms of the production and consumption of goods and services.
Yeah.
A particular system or stage of an economy, such as a free market economy. Careful management of available resources, also sparing or careful use of something. Also a financial savings.
Yeah.
Here's the last one, or at least the last noun. The cheapest class of air or rail travel.
There you go.
Thanks, Oxford. Really appreciate that. Really needed that last one.
The last one. Well, that's right. Economy has lots of different nuanced definitions. It's important.
Yeah. Like the economy car, which leads into my description, which is an adjective, offering the best value for the money or designed to be an economical use.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh, economy car. Did you know that is mostly used in the U.S.? They don't use it other places very often. We use it most here in the United States.
Yeah.
Are we going to call electric vehicles economy cars?
No. We're going to call them, let's see, what are we going to call electric cars to really sell them? Brushless Power Master cars.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because apparently this is the thing that like electric battery powered tools.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get the brushless ones.
Oh, okay. And why is that?
You got these brushless electric motors that just work better than the old electric motors. And so, this is when I'm going to Home Depot and shopping around the tools, and they're like, brushless motor.
Yeah.
And apparently those are stronger.
Yeah.
So that's where Elon's got to figure out how to market his truck better.
Yeah.
Because Ford's going to come out with the brushless Turbo Bronco.
Which car company do you think is going to do it best?
Do it best?
Yeah. Do the electric motor best for their vehicles? Or are they
probably Toyota.
You think?
I don't know. Just get right down there.
It's just like, look, what's a car name? Toyota. Got it. Toyota.
They like to make cars that last for 20 years, so they'll probably do it real good.
Yeah. Renault.
Maybe. Let's see.
I don't know.
But no, did you see that GM brought the Hummer brand back?
Oh, yeah. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Hummers went away for a while because basically the whole point of the Hummer was it's a big car that's super macho and burns a lot of gas.
Right.
But now they've brought it back and it's an EV.
Okay.
An electric vehicle. The new Hummer is an electric vehicle.
Interesting.
And I don't know, it can crab walk. I saw a commercial that had something to do with crab walking.
Crab walking? You mean like for parking?
For tricky parallel parking situations, like all of the tires can independently rotate a little bit and the car can go diagonal, I guess. It seemed dumb.
That sounds like a recipe for danger, but...
Yeah, there's a lot of those, yeah.
Yeah. The origin, the etymology.
The origin, go for it.
Late 15th century, in the sense... management of material resources, from French economie, or by way of Latin from Greek oikonomia, oikos, which is house, and Niemann, which is manage, Nemein.
Yeah.
And then current senses of the word and what it means basically started in the 17th century. Do you have anything to add to the etymology of?
I would say, well, I like that you got the Greek word in there, the Greek prefix. But I like to always point out that the eco part of it is exactly the same eco that's in ecology.
Yeah.
So, ecology is also about our house, but it's looking at it a different way.
Yeah.
And, our house, the economics and economy is about the metaphorical house that we live in.
Correct.
And our great households of people, besides just our little tiny house.
Yep.
But like this is, in my little zine that I made.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and
my window on economics. Yeah, you want to talk about it? Yeah, because I spent sometimes I wanted to. The last time I made a zine, it was about ability.
And we had you on the show for that.
Yeah, I begged you. I said, put me on your podcast because it's so much cooler than making zines. It's exactly the same amount of cool. Sorry. But so I made that, and then I was like trying to think about what would my next thing be, and then end up thinking about all this economic stuff all the time.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, this is weird and confusing, and maybe a younger me would have benefited from my current weird take on it. And I was like, I better write my current weird take on it down.
Okay.
So that's why I made my new zine, which the copy I sent you probably had the cover that said A Window on Economics.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Partially Robot Industries presents A Window on Economics.
Yeah, but I changed the title.
What did you change it to?
I changed it to An Actually Autistic Window on Economics. Because
okay.
I realized that I wasn't marketing well. I was like, oh, yeah, I got to put on, because nobody wants to pick up a book that's about economics or windows, that seems boring. But
right. But a perspective from someone who has a unique perspective that.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as a late in life diagnosed autistic person, I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is a thing, and there's a hashtag I can cash in on. Right. So I'm trying to really work the economics now because
that's kind of the economics of social media. There's kind of
exactly.
Yeah.
Social media is such a weird thing, especially right now when some super rich guy was like, I'm going to buy this social media thing and then destroy all the means by which it makes money.
Yeah.
Because he does.
Yeah, and I don't know. There are a lot of people that I know and respect who are leaving the platform.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not quite at that spot yet, but then again, I'm not entrenched in all the seedy sort of the hate and all that kind of stuff. It's
the hate's no good.
And the person you were speaking of, who may or may not got to start making electrical vehicles. He got
to start doing something else. He was already rich when he bought out that company and sidelined the original founder. So
right. He basically
hired some engineers and gave him enough money to do what he wanted them to do.
Right.
And then he wanted to make rockets, and he did the same thing.
And now he wants to make trouble.
And now, no, what happened was he was making trouble, and then his mouth wrote a check that he said, no, you really got to back that up now. You said that you were going to do that, and you got to do it now.
Right.
Because part of his whole deal with Twitter is that he made some weird tweets about his car company earlier on that sort of the SEC was like, no, you can't do that. That's manipulating markets. And then they, they whacked him. They said, no, if you're going to put tweets about your car company, you have to run them by a lawyer first. And they could make him do that because Twitter was a publicly traded company.
But now it's his own mouthpiece.
And then he shot off his mouth on that, saying, well, I'm going to just buy it up and take it private.
Yeah.
And then the same forces that told him, you can't just say that you're going to buy stuff and not do it. And then they made him buy it.
Yeah.
So, but
for better or for worse, I mean, if it's going to be, if it's something that's beneficial to people, I think that's what people are worried about with Twitter specifically. People use that very frequently to communicate with their audience. And now that trouble is going to be stirred up, especially if your name is Weird Al, then, you know,
Weird Al. No, he knows what he's doing.
yeah.
He knows exactly what he's doing.
It's a tricky subject. I really don't know enough about the negative sides of what's going on Twitter. All I know is I see a lot of people who are just not using the platform anymore and trying something else.
Yeah, well, I think what the real problem with Twitter is that a lot of people just lost confidence in the platform.
Yeah.
So that's just something that's going to happen because the platform of Twitter, like it just had a shelf life and it came to an end. You know.
Yeah.
I think things that happened a few years ago really turned people off.
Yeah.
And they stopped checking it as much. And like I stopped checking it as much.
Right. Either that or they checked it too frequently and got worried.
Yeah. Like now I find that if I tweet something, it's just like shouting into a well.
Yeah.
Like nobody's liking anything anymore or retweeting. It's like everybody's like, oh, unless it's a super famous person tweets something, then they feel safe like liking it or retweeting it.
Yeah. I just never understood. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want this to be a show about Twitter.
No. The only good thing about Twitter was that it was a place for smartasses to make smartass comments, and we liked it that way.
But that's Reddit. I think that's what Reddit's for.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think Twitter's for Reddit for people with short attention spans. I don't
guess. It's just I never quite understood. I understood part of it, like how you would get things trending and how you would observe these things and utilize that to get your word out. But it just seemed to me a means to, if you were on a crowded street in a big city, like for example Chicago, and you just wanted to yell your opinions, standing out there yelling your opinions at people. That's all it is. It's just yelling opinions.
It is. It's like that. That's why we need to change the subject because Twitter's kind of dumb.
Yeah, Twitter is dumb. Okay, so let's.
It's dumb.
And we just concluded our Twitter is dumb segment of the show. As you were saying, with your zine that you created, was this around the conclusion of the COVID? I say conclusion, but you know what I mean. When, we started interacting with people again, was that when you started thinking about economics, or was it during the COVID times?
I've been sort of thinking about economics for a long time. I just didn't realize I was.
Okay.
I've been like thinking about how to try to make my money work better for a while.
Okay.
My work, there was a union benefit where I could get free education, like a free associate's degree.
Okay.
So I took some coursework and got an associate's degree in accounting as a way to like think of, well, maybe I need to switch my career path.
Right.
Over the process of that, it just got me thinking about, accounting isn't just about money. Money is just the way that we compare things and be able to put value on stuff.
Right.
So that we know what we're doing. But I realize there's so much more that you can think about besides just how much is my credit card balance and how much do I need to come up with by the third of the month or I'm in trouble.
Right. I think with accounting or bookkeeping to some extent, all it is math, pretty much. I mean, there's no conceptual things that you can think about in accounting. There are assets components, building blocks, but as far as it fits into an economy, you're not concerned with that as an accountant necessarily, unless your accountant invests. But I would call that an advisor as opposed to an accountant. When I think accountant,
well,
what are your thoughts?
I was going to say that the discipline of accounting gives you the tools to look at the way energy and resources flow between people. And it gives you a different way to look at it and really go, these different amounts, these different transactions have things on both sides of them and they have to equal out. And you sort of see like, the stuff that's coming from this country to that country, then something else needs to go the other way or there's an imbalance.
Yeah.
And if there's an imbalance for a long time, then things get weird.
Are you talking about income, expenses, liabilities, assets with that? You mean just balance in general?
Well, what I think in general is like to get away from the money part is that people undervalue themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like people don't recognize that they actually have some assets. I think young people especially let their bosses kind of make them feel valueless.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now our current crop of young people is probably like, no, I'm not valueless. I saw a TikTok about this and my boss can shut up. But
Well,
then they get fired.
yeah, and the whole quiet quitting thing, let's not get into that either, because that whole trend is kind of like, it's called having a job. It's
called having a job.
That's what it is. You know,
it's called you were too excited about your job before, and now you figured out how to put on the brakes on some stuff.
Right. It's how we Gen Xers just worked. It's not because we're putting our effort into it. We're just not going, I don't think, you know, unless it serves us in some way, or unless we're doing it for happiness, we don't go above and beyond in a lot of.
Well, yeah. This weird idea that you have to work like crazy to get ahead is like, no.
Yeah.
As Scrooge McDuck's father told him, work smarter, not harder.
Is that a Scrooge McDuck quote?
I don't know. It was in an episode of DuckTales when I was a kid. Somebody else might have said it. I don't
think it was Scrooge McDuck. I believe it was said before that. I hate to rain on your parade.
Probably, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
Work smarter, not harder. And
I think to some extent, businesses in general kind of, I don't know if they poisoned that phrase a little bit. It's been said so many times as far as in business speak.
Yeah.
In such a way that makes it not mean as much now. But conceptually, I think that's the thing. It's like, it's an efficiency question more than anything else.
There's an efficiency question. Businesses do like to find efficiencies, but one of their efficiencies that they like to find is to figure out how to exploit people for the lowest amount they can pay for labor.
Mm-hmm.
And so, slavery was, the extreme of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm working really smart here because I tell all these other people they need to work for me and they don't have a choice.
Yeah. And we don't pay them. And I think child labor too. Did you mention that in the zine? I don't recall. But I mean, that's another one of those.
I didn't go too specifically into child labor because Newsies, that was a great movie about child labor.
Yeah.
It's a musical. It's a musical about the child labor Newsies going on strike.
I never thought of it as child labor, but now that I think about it, when I had my paper out.
It's child labor.
Yeah.
But it's not the kind of child labor like the having the really young kids thread things on the looms.
Yeah.
Because their hands are tiny.
Right. It's not like hard labor. It's more.
Yeah. I mean, the paper rout's okay. The hawking on the street corner is kind of dicey.
Well, in any case, Newsies, your favorite movie.
Yeah, Newsies. Totally irrelevant now because who's selling newspapers?
Who knows?
On the corner.
Who knows what a newspaper is?
Read all about it. They don't do it.
Yeah. I had a discussion with Cheyenne about that, and like, newspaper? Do people really still read the newspaper? I was like, yeah, I know some people.
I do. I get the New York Times on Sundays.
Yeah.
Because I like to hold it.
Yeah.
I like to hold things.
Yeah. I think that's another thing as we're getting older. You mentioned also in the zine stuff as a concept, as far as stuff that we buy or stuff that we use. And I think that that's interesting to talk about that, because now stuff isn't necessarily physical. It can be assets. It can be.
There's a lot of like intangible stuff.
Correct.
There's a lot more intangible stuff. Like, and really that is like an accounting category, is the intangible assets.
Yes, exactly.
Which there's that one guy who's in trouble with his tax returns.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't need to mention names, but part of that thing is that what I realized, like, he valued his business with this one big intangible asset category called goodwill.
Right.
Like, it's basically brand recognition or name recognition, which can bring a lot of weight to a business transaction.
Right.
That is an intangible asset, and you can get people to give you money for letting them use your intangible asset.
Right.
That's just your name, and it's kind of the same thing as, I don't know, being a YouTuber, I guess. I don't know.
You're not talking about Kanye, are you?
Kanye. Well,
I thought you were kind of going...
Yeah, Kanye. Oh, yeah. Kanye did the same thing.
Right, where he just basically...
I wasn't talking about Kanye, but it's like, it's because lots of people do the same thing. And they get their name, they get their brand image. And then if they screw up, then all of a sudden nobody wants to do business with them. So the goodwill goes to zero.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, well, that contract is null and void because of whatever.
So this is actually talking to you about like the my sort of distinction about how things have to do with economy and have to do with the social aspect of being a human.
Right.
All the social frameworks that we have. And so if we didn't have like unspoken or intangible values that kind of drive what we do, economics wouldn't even work.
Yeah.
Right. Because you have to have this concept of there's something more than what I have right now. Like the whole financial system is like, oh, I'm going to have more money in the future, so I can borrow money now.
Right.
And then being able to do that actually means that we can make stuff happen.
I like your point about the human asset comparison.
Yeah, and that's the real thing is like, you can't forget the humanity of everybody that's involved in this.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately big corporations are like designed to forget the humanity.
Right.
But,
even though they are treated as anyway.
Yeah, they do some funny stuff.
Yeah, but for the most part, you're right. There's a human in the equation, but if we can't get that right as far as social interactions, how are we going to get it right for economics or an economy? I don't want to be a negative Nancy, but I'm just saying that it's going to be a challenge. Us realizing, I think, that we have our own intangible assets is a first step.
Yeah.
But how can you teach respecting others and their own intangible assets and what they do and what they value?
Yeah, well, that's philosophy.
Yeah, that's a very deep.
It's not necessarily economics. This is
No.
a scary thing that I realized as I was writing this. I was like, oh, a lot of these ideas are really just ideas about how things move and flow.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really like a value judgment on there. There's not like the same mechanisms will work for organized crime as they will for your nonprofit that's feeding children places.
Right. Or a bake sale.
Yeah.
No bake sale?
Bake sale. Yeah, bake sale. Yeah, it's the same thing. A bake sale and racketeering, it's the same thing. The bake sales are emotional racketeering.
Yeah.
That's what you're like guilting people into giving you money for your
baked goods.
Yeah, the Girl Scouts got it. Let me tell you, the Girl Scouts, they got it down.
Yeah, they took a look at lemonade stands and they said, "Hold my beer."
Hold my beer. Let's see. We're gonna contract a baker here. We got some boxes printed up. Let's say you got the cute outfits. Everybody's got parents at work. There you go.
Well, isn't there like a subset of Keebler, I think, that actually makes some of those, that kind of...
I'm sure that there's, yes.
And they're two different... I mean, I didn't do a ton of research on this, but I did do some research on the Girl Scout cookie thing once, where it was like, in the United States, there's a certain company that makes the cookies in one place and a certain company that makes them in another place.
Yeah. So. Oh my gosh. This brings up the mayonnaise conspiracy.
What's the mayonnaise conspiracy?
You know Best Foods mayonnaise?
Yes.
Yeah, they don't have that out back east. They have Hellmann's.
Right. I know Hellmann's. I don't know Best. But you know Best, right?
It's the same mayonnaise. Same company. They use a different brand in different parts of the place. They used to be different companies, but they merged a long time ago.
Right. that makes sense for regional kind of things. You know, you did mention things like intangible assets and brand recognition.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah, you got to use the mayonnaise that your grandma used, or it's not going to turn out right.
Right. You're going to have shitty deviled eggs or whatever. I don't
Shitty
know.
deviled eggs. But let me see. What was the other one? Oh, Dryers and Eddies. I think that's it. Ice cream.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're same. They got the same logo. You look at their websites, you're like, oh, this is the same website. They just changed the names on everything. It's amazing.
But I mean, and there are also
Yeah.
things with brand recognition, though, that I mean, I'm not 100% sure on the Starbucks Seattle's Best thing, but I mean,
Oh,
that's another one of those things where it's like the companies kind of merge, but it's like you're still keeping them separate for a reason.
yeah. Starbucks just spun off Seattle's Best. They just sold it to somebody.
I think so.
Probably sold it to Folgers. I don't know.
I'm not sure. I'm
No.
not sure who they.
No. It wasn't Folgers.
Folgers Crystals. Do you remember that Saturday Night Live episode with the "We replaced this person's blood"?
Oh, I don't remember that skit, but
You need to look it up. It's hilarious.
I
But
look it
anyway,
I remember the commercials
the best part of waking up.
were the ones we replaced this fancy ass restaurant's gourmet coffee with Folgers crystals.
Right, exactly.
They go talk to people and they're like, "Oh, this is great."
Yeah,
Folgers crystals. Like,
that's exactly what the blood SNL thing is about. It's
I'm
hilarious. Yeah, and they actually use the name. It's not like they use a fake name. It's like we've at the whatever hospital we've replaced this person's blood with Folgers crystals. An instant? You know what? I did have one question specifically about your basic concepts section.
yeah,
You're doing a breakdown of the building blocks. And I did see that you had put in there assets and liabilities,
yeah.
but I don't know why or if there was a reason why you didn't put equity in there. Is equity too confusing of a concept to put into that? Did you not put it in there intentionally?
Oh, I didn't do it intentionally, but
I mean, it's just assets minus liabilities is your equity.
yeah, that is the basic accounting equation.
It is a difference of those two things. Therefore, I think
Yeah.
you could say it's not a building block.
Equity. I would say part of it is the term equity means different things in different contexts, because there is the social justice equity,
Oh, yeah.
and I feel like zines sort of have a social justice audience a lot,
Hmm.
and that might
There would be confusion.
I would have to go on for too many pages to explain what I meant by equity.
Gotcha.
I think I think I filled up those pages.
It's like, okay, well, what gets the axe? It's equity. All right.
Basically equity is just stored value.
Yeah.
Assets equals liability plus equity.
I knew that.
Yeah.
I knew that that job at Intuit supporting QuickBooks would come in handy at some point. But yeah.
Yeah, that's basically if you owe less money than where you got assets,
Yeah.
that means you have equity.
Yeah.
You got stuff you can convert to cash and send out to your people. But
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, and then
boring.
we got cash on hand. That's a short-term asset, right? But anyway,
Yeah,
let's
there's short-term assets and long-term assets.
yeah. Let's not get into the how the sausage is made kind of
Exactly.
portion, because that's what we stay away from that in the zine, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. This is why I didn't talk about equity, because it's accounting, it's not economics.
Right. Right.
I did talk about assets and liabilities because those are more relatable on a human way, and I think mainly because I was trying to really encourage people to build themselves up by realizing their own assets.
Yeah. That makes sense.
What is equity? Basically, you have your assets,
Hmm.
and your assets are worth something, and you got your liabilities, and
Right.
those, the assets are what you have, liabilities are what you pay,
Right.
and your equity is, if you have positive equity, it is the amount of the worth of your assets that's more than the worth of your liabilities.
Right.
That's all it is. It's just math. It's there to make the numbers equal out.
And if you have more liabilities than you have assets, then you're Kanye.
Then you're Kanye. Your mortgage is underwater, as they say.
Yeah.
Kanye.
It's actually,
Kanye
yeah,
was trading on his name for a while.
right,
I mean, basically anybody who is like super famous, a lot of one of their biggest assets is their name, recognition, just
right,
their own celebrity. That's their asset.
right.
And then all of a sudden, Kanye became more of a liability than an asset. So
Right.
his equity went negative.
Yeah. So Adidas's balance sheet.
Adidas's balance sheet. They're like, you need to cut this.
Yeah, we gotta stop this. So we will terminate the contract and reduce your forthcoming income.
Yeah, they're basically, we don't think we're going to be able to sell as much of this as we thought because it's not worth it anymore. And
right.
I don't know. They might have had other excuses too.
I just don't. On an aside note, on an aside note.
What is it? An aside or a side note?
It's an aside note.
Yeah.
It's both. Maybe it's redundant. My thought is, I was talking about this with my aunt, and I said to Nora, are you familiar with who Kanye West is? And she said, oh, he's that dumb guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's like any other artist. He does have his idiosyncrasies, and maybe that's part of his tortured soul, is being paranoid or whatever.
Dumb or super impulsive.
Yeah.
And doesn't keep up on his meds. Maybe.
Right.
I don't know.
It's like, I'm not calling him dumb. I'm just calling him an asshole.
Yeah.
He's an asshole.
Yeah. He's an asshole. I mean, that's it.
If history is any teacher, like when he did those music awards with what's her name?
Taylor Swift?
Yeah, the Taylor Swift thing.
When he jumped up and he's like, this Grammy belongs to Beyonce or whatever it was. Basically, yeah.
Yeah, and then 2 years later, he was getting up when Beck received his Album of the Year award, and Beck saw him and he was like waving him up. He's like, come up here. I don't know what the hell I'm going to say. Just come on up. And that kept him from going up on stage. So
Beck knew how to.
Yep.
Beck knows how to defuse a situation.
Yep. I think it's all that Scientology.
I maybe.
I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, Beck is the one. He's the one person that makes me go, oh well, maybe there's something to this Scientology.
Really? I don't know.
Or maybe it's just that I'm like, I like Beck.
Yeah.
I think I like Beck, and I'm usually confused by Scientology. So
yeah, I think we just need to play it safe and separate our music and religion.
That's true.
At least in part. I mean,
in part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep our secular music away from our religious beliefs, maybe.
Yeah.
But don't tell Amy Grant. But anyway, so anyway.
Yeah.
So, all right. So that's what we wanted to say about Kanye. I'm sorry. Negative equity.
Negative equity.
Yeah.
Negative equity. Yeah. Kanye, he's having a little negative equity problem right now. It'll probably work itself out.
Is it Kyrie Irving? Also the basketball player kind of did.
Yeah. People end up saying things that maybe they shouldn't. And
social media allows us to do that, right? It's
social media allows us to forget to put on the brakes sometimes, and
and to forget that they're actual people
that
are on the end of that mechanism.
And somebody can take a social media thing and run with it. So look out.
Right.
On the other hand, my social media presence is very, very neglected by the public. I mean, maybe I should throw in some really outlandish hate speech, and then I'll get my signal boosted. But that's not really how I roll.
The best it was ever for me as far as social media was when Brendan Fraser liked one of my comments.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah. I
got retweeted by Will Wheaton once.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. That's a cool deal.
That was that was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
He just retweeted a comment that I put on something he was doing, which was nuts. It was actually sort of an economy thing. Related thing, because he was going through a storage unit and like auctioning old stuff, and he found like a ping pong ball that was kind of crushed in there, and he drew a smiley face on it, and as a joke he put it on eBay.
Right.
And it was getting a lot of bids, and it was like somebody bid like $11,000 on it, And, you know, he was just sort of live tweeting, "This is ridiculous." And then I just said, "This is the weirdest episode of Storage Wars I've ever seen." And so he retweeted that. And then all of a sudden I got a bunch of followers and I was like, "Oh, cool. I got the Will Wheaton
All right.
juice." You know, that only lasted so long. And then when you stop tweeting for several years, then all those people, I lost my fan base.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that wasn't really my fan base.
It was potential.
It was me dorking around on Twitter and had a little moment of, "Ooh, that's fun."
Yeah. To me, that's all Twitter is good for, is keeping up with things that are scheduled or people's shows or what they're doing or concerts or, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like the good part of social media is where like you can like let people know what's going on and what they might be interested in.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I still don't know much about those hashtags, but whatever.
Hashtags might be done. I don't know.
I just always have an urge to just do an unrelated hashtag, you know, to be just kind of like,
yeah.
But I guess if you do it right, you know, you pick the trending hashtag and you can kind of sneak it into something that you say and then you get more eyes on it, I guess. But
yeah, maybe.
It just seems kind of dirty, sneaky, underhanded.
Yeah, I think it's the hashtag is like a prayer to the algorithms. Like, please choose me. Please choose my tweet. Please choose my Instagram post.
This has nothing to do with economics. Well, I guess it does have it.
It does. It does, because there's that thing about the, you know, demand and supply and interest and like.
Oh yeah.
So the whole social media thing can like drive up interest in things, which can bring demand up for certain things.
Right.
And then, you know, when demand gets really high, then and then the supply suddenly crashes because Ticketmaster's a jerk.
Yeah.
And then people are spending like $30,000 for a Taylor Swift ticket.
Oh yeah.
For that short period of time, you know, the supply is so constricted and there's a resale value that's crazy because apparently, even though we're in economic weird times,
yeah, people
can spend $30,000 to go see
Taylor Swift.
You know, Taylor Swift. I mean, don't begrudge anyone who wants to see Taylor Swift.
Yeah, and I'm not disparaging Taylor Swift.
No, it's just more that the mechanism. I don't think Taylor Swift's that happy that the mechanism to sell her tickets broke down.
Oh no, she's not.
Yeah,
if anyone can change it, you know, it's either her or Beyonce.
Yeah, I
guess.
I guess. I mean, you know, Pearl Jam tried.
Yeah, they did.
Pearl Jam tried. Remember?
Yeah. Oh no, I do remember.
They're like, we don't want to do Ticketmaster, and then they were fine.
Yeah.
But I don't think they ever had trouble booking a show or selling it.
And I think Taylor Swift could do the same if she wanted to.
She could do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think she especially thought about wanting to, but now she might. Because, you know, like how she like re-recorded all her old albums.
Oh yeah, yeah, to screw over the people who bought the rights to them or whatever. Right?
No, this is because she had already been screwed over like all recording artists by their recording contract.
Right.
Because there's like two different sets of rights.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's like the songwriting rights, which has a certain amount of royalties go to it. But then there's who owns the mechanicals.
Right.
Which is like the rights to the recording session.
Okay.
And so the label owned that.
Right.
And like, since she was a kid and didn't understand that was a thing you could negotiate in your contract. And of course, she came from a point where she didn't have she basically didn't have the clout to be able to negotiate it because she was a kid.
Right.
She didn't have the leverage.
Right.
That's another good word, leverage.
Yeah.
But then now she, you know, figured it out and was like, oh, well, these are my songs. I can sing them whenever I want to. I can record my songs.
Right.
And I can hire my own engineer and re-record my own albums and release them and then get the mechanical royalties on that.
Right.
Instead of, you know, whatever, Time Warner or whoever.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a kind of smart thing to do.
Yeah, a smart sort of loophole kind of thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, she was able to do it.
Yeah.
And other artists might just like, you know, Bob Dylan probably got rich enough to buy all of his mechanicals or put it in his contract. I don't know. He does whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Does he?
I don't know. I don't know
what he's doing lately, but I hope it's whatever he wants.
Yeah. Just know. All I know is I share a birthday with him, or not a birth date, a birthday. So is there something specifically, I usually ask this is one of the, normal questions for the show is what is the first thing you think of when you think of the word economy?
Mm-hmm.
And currently, is it your zine that you think of, or is it something else?
Well, right now I'm thinking about cheap airlines. I don't know. Economy airlines.
Oh, yeah. Because of the, economy seats.
Economy. I think
it's all about business class, It's all about business class.
That was honestly the first thing I thought about was, Southwest Airlines.
Yeah.
No, but economy. Also, like basically keeping track of what you're doing.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Keeping track of how am I spending my energy?
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to get through this next time period? How am I going to spend my time? Yeah.
Right. And like I said before, I mean, there's an efficiency component.
Exactly. That was the next word I was going to say. How am I going to efficiently do this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thinking of the word efficiency when you think of economy is probably also a good sort of connection.
Yeah.
I was going to say, after reading your zine, but then also a little bit before, it makes me think of Ferris Bueller's Day Off for a number of reasons, for a number of scenes even. The John Hughes movie, 1986, classic. Have you seen it recently or have you not? Not since the 80s, maybe?
No, I've seen it since the 80s, but I'm like, was it 6 years ago? Maybe? Yeah.
Yeah. I've been watching a lot of, I don't know, this is kind of a guilty pleasure for me now, is going on YouTube and watching a lot of these millennials and Gen Z watch movies for the first time. And it's a nice way to kind of refresh my memory on what I enjoyed about a movie without actually watching the movie. To get kind of an abbreviated sort of perspective on what a younger generation thinks about something that came out 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago even.
Yeah.
There is a scene in there that features the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, the CME.
Yeah.
Where they are watching participants engaging in the open outcry method of trading.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that at all? You've seen older footage of the Mercantile Exchange, right? The Merc, as we call it.
Yeah, or people are out there just yelling at each other and selling things and buying shares.
Flashing gang signs.
They're showing their cards and they got their teletype ticker going off somewhere. And
right. Yeah. It looks like just chaos. We can talk about sort of just, mercantile exchange facts. It's one of those things in Chicago that is, if you live in Chicago, it's iconic and you've been there. Kind of like all the different sites in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Have you ever had the urge to, I mean, you probably didn't because you're not from Chicago, but to see how long it would take to follow the path of the movie? Because that is not a school day, I don't think.
They're all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can imagine.
If Chicago was in a line the way John Hughes made it in his mind, maybe you could do all those things that they did on that day, but there's a lot of going cross town and things of that nature.
Like probably in the order that they did them. I was like, you wouldn't do that.
No, definitely not.
Wait, okay. So now there's a movie that's made in Tucson starring a young Charlie Sheen.
Uh-huh.
It was called The Wraith.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And, man, it was about this fancy, like, ghost car and some kind of revenge plot in it. But whatever. They're driving all over the place. But a lot of it, they're just driving up and down 4th Avenue and making it look like it's 10 miles long. And I'm just like, what kind of stupid movie is this?
It's like, it's Hollywood magic. It's like, no, it's not.
Hollywood magic. Also, I think Can't Buy Me Love also did some of that nonsense.
Tucson for a while there was a movie. Well, they made some 80s movies there.
Yeah.
Like Revenge of the Nerds. They have the Revenge of the Nerds house. And
yeah, they made the Little House on the Prairie out at Old Tucson.
Yeah.
Michael Landon was always playing tennis. I had some invitational tennis tournament for kids or whatever. But
here we go. The Wraith. That was the movie you were talking about, right?
The Wraith, yeah.
1986. Yeah. I thought you said The Race.
No, it was The Wraith.
Yeah.
Yeah. WRAITH.
Yes. I corrected you because I thought you said The Race.
You thought I had a lisp.
Yeah.
Because I was a big fan of Daffy Duck when I was a kid.
Who wasn't? Just some people who thought he was despicable or whatever.
Just an asshole. Like now I'm like, oh, Daffy Duck was just an asshole.
He was.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, but in a funny way, you know.
Well, The Wraith sits at 36% on Rotten Tomatoes for whatever that's worth. Let me get back to the Mercantile Exchange. Some interesting things. One of the things I talked about, the open outcry method, which was in use at the time of the filming, but later it was replaced by more electronic usage. I think it started in the 1970s is when they established that. You have hundreds of people on the floor in the trading pit to call out orders, prices, quantities of different commodities or its derivatives.
Yeah.
You would see different colored jackets.
Ah.
Do you know what those different colored jackets represent?
Gangs. No.
Each one of the jackets worn by the traders indicate what firm they're a part of.
Yeah. Oh, firm. Yeah, that's what I meant by gangs. What firm they're in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Potato.
Yeah, same thing. Like I said. Yeah.
Investment gangs, I guess.
Yeah, seriously.
They have the hand signals, which you saw.
Yeah.
ARB. These hand signals were first used in the 1970s. That's what I said with the part of the open outcry method. That's kind of a shorthand, is the hand signals. And there are pits, which are different areas where they're recessed areas on the trading floor to facilitate more communication or to be more audible to people while you're making deals and so on and so forth. And they can be raised and lowered depending on the trading volume.
What?
So if you need more pits, you can lower some more pits. Yeah, it's not like it's a fight to the death. Although, if the Mercantile Exchange ever goes under, you got a death match pit or something. Also, for someone who's probably not interested in Chicago, I apologize for being long-winded here. Located at 20 South Wacker Drive, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange was founded in 1898 as the Chicago Butter and Egg Board.
Yes.
That's what it was started as, Butter and Egg Board.
Yeah.
And it was Agricultural Commodities Exchange.
All right.
The exchange was a nonprofit organization until it demutualized in the 2000s, actually.
Wow.
And it went public in December of 2002. And then it merged with the Chicago Board of Trade, 2007. And then there was also a merger between the New York Mercantile Exchange and now all of these, including New York, all owned under the CME, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange Group.
Oh, really?
Yep. After the merger, value of the Mercantile Exchange in a 2-year span has a cap of $25 billion. Market cap, which is a lot of illions.
It means that there's a lot of money that happens there. Yeah.
Do you remember when we used to hang out back in the old days? And by back in the old days, I mean like 20 some odd years ago.
Yeah. In the last century, that's when that was.
Yeah. And I used to, for no good reason, just randomly say, buy the pork belly, sell the soy, just randomly to people.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. That is ringing so many bells, and
pretty weird. I can't even tell you why I said it. I just thought it was funny.
That is funny. I thought it was funny. I don't know why you did it, but it was funny.
I'm glad you agree.
No disagreement here.
Back to Ferris Bueller's Day Off. The one thing that I was going to say, which also is in your magazine or in your zine, sorry. Yeah. Now there's another reason to not call it a magazine. I just don't want the MAGA associated with the zine.
We don't want the MAGA. That's I gotta make, oh my gosh, I gotta make a sticker. Taking the MAGA out of magazines.
Exactly. Partly Robot Industries, taking the MAGA out of magazines. Since
1994.
Yep.
Okay.
But anyway, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's that beginning scene where he's explaining he's broken the fourth wall and all hell's breaking loose.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, not that I condone fascism or any ism for that matter. Isms, in my opinion, are not good. A person should not believe in an ism. He should believe in himself. I quote John Lennon, I don't believe in Beatles. I just believe in me. Good point there.
Yeah. All right. I was totally thinking about that scene when I was talking about isms.
Oh, when you were writing it?
When I was writing, that little nugget of Ferris Bueller wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did kind of follow me. Yeah, that idea that, isms. And so, like, to explain a little bit, I do talk a little bit about how there's like the various isms that affect economies. Like there's the capitalism and socialism and communism, and there's a lot more.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to like say, well, these are all, again, they're like different social structures. They're like philosophies that get applied to how a certain country or a certain group runs their economy.
Right.
But they aren't really economics in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
but those isms are related to how economies or an economy is handled.
They are. And there's like more than just those three. There's, and, but I was just like, yeah, we could go all day talking about different isms and, what's your favorite one? And my favorite's botulism.
Oh, mine is skepticism.
Skepticism's a good one.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's where I was coming from. I was like, I didn't want to make this to be actually an endorsement of any kind of overall political thought on how to run an economy. It was
right. It was kind of a point of reference, essentially.
Point of reference. It was like, these things exist, but then, it was like, one of my example about like the Soviet Union was, trying to make communism really work.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I sort of made this little exaggerated claim about, but the thing about this Soviet Union was they still had a market economy going on underneath the command economy of that was set by the dictatorship, because people were selling things on the black market.
Right.
I made a joke about how that was really what brought down the Soviet Union in the Cold War.
I thought it was McDonald's.
The Soviet Union brought down to McDonald's. No,
as payback recently.
Well, yeah, exactly. They're like, you sons of bitches. Oh, right, here it is. Yeah, I said, within the communist-style command economy of the Soviet Union, there existed another economy, the black market.
Right.
The black market is basically a secret economy that trades in otherwise controlled goods. Because the Soviet Union's communist model sought to control every aspect of the economy, there was a heck of a lot of places the flow could leak into the black market, and a heck of a lot of rubles to be made.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, so many resources leaked out of the Soviet warehouses and onto the black market that the communist leadership could no longer keep their economic model running. Now, that was just I wrote that to entertain myself.
Okay.
But it's not wrong.
There's a nugget of truth there.
There, especially because I was following current events and the war in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Early on, there was this stuff about how, both sides were using old Soviet era equipment,
mm-hmm.
and in the Ukraine after 2014, the whole Crimea thing. There was they had rules about, well, we can't buy parts from Russia anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So they were going to try to manufacture their own or whatever, but they kept getting these deals on secondhand parts,
mm-hmm.
because in Russia, everybody's on the take and stealing stuff from work and selling it on the black market. So a lot of equipment that, Russia had.
I don't think that's entirely true, but
what
is that?
What, that Russia's there's a lot of corruption going on? And
well, no, I'm not saying that there's not a lot of corruption. I'm just saying that people are stealing stuff from work and selling it on the black market. I don't know if that's
okay. Russian generals who are in charge of stored equipment from the Soviet stockpile.
Okay, so we're talking that.
I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about large scale corruption.
Gotcha.
They were selling spare parts. They're basically dismantling stuff. So then, during the Ukraine war, when they needed to call up more equipment, they were going into these warehouses and finding out half the stuff was gone.
Right. I mean, that can't be the entire reason why they appear to be losing, or I don't know if losing is the right word.
It's not the entire reason, but it's a really interesting thing that I heard early on. But
Yeah.
there was also this joke about the two Russian generals meeting up saying, they say we're going to do a big operation. They're worried about how much fuel they have. And one of them was like, oh, well, I already sold half of our fuel on the black market. And the other guy's like, well, I sold half of our fuel on the black market. So they both sold all the fuel. And
Right.
that was a joke. So that's why I think isms, people put out their isms as a thing to try to gather under, but
Right.
they're only as strong as their ability to counteract corruption, which I think consolidated dictatorships have a lot more trouble with keeping corruption under control.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like a free and open market,
Right.
well, we still have corruption, but at least we get to put it on the news.
Right.
At least we have these regular big scandals, and then certain businesses are like, we better not do that because we don't want to be on the news like that. Because their ability to operate really depends on investors having confidence in the
Right.
business.
Investor confidence is important.
Whereas a dictatorship does not really care about investor confidence.
Right.
Which means there's lots of room for corruption to happen because everybody's doing their best to control all the information all the time, which is sort of impossible.
It's an exercise in futility.
That's right, because people just put it on Twitter anyway. Or like that guy, I was hearing an NPR story about the World Cup.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this isn't the Budweiser fiasco. That's funny.
Yeah.
But the other one...
Didn't he tweet something like, this is awkward?
Yeah, that is awkward. I'm like, we got a warehouse full of Budweiser in Qatar and we can't do anything with it. So the winning country gets it, I guess. That's an example of how changing regulations can mess with your business. But the other thing I was thinking about was the giant amount of record keeping that went on with the Qatar's efforts to bribe all of the FIFA officials.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like there was somebody that was really good about sending receipts for all of the, all the bribes. Like,
I got to put it into QuickBooks later.
Yeah, I know. Like,
make sure you save your bribery receipts.
So basically, these people that have been investigating it have a lot of information to sift through, but they're finding stuff that, like, we've never seen a corruption case like this.
Did you watch the Netflix?
The Netflix series?
Yeah, they do have a 4-episode series on that whole FIFA debacle.
Oh, wow. I didn't watch it because it's a sports ball. Yeah.
But I mean, it's less about the sports and it's more about how deep corruption goes and how it can be, you can turn a blind eye to it, but it's still happening. Yeah. And then the two choices that they had for the 2018 and 2022 on paper, it was supposed to be England and the US. I mean, those made sense.
Yeah.
But then somehow the political things going on in the background, right? Whether or not there were bribes, which I guess Comey and their investigation or whatever, the FBI investigation turned up a lot of dirt on it. But it's just an interesting sort of thing about corruption, I thought, was the series. It's like, the Russian stuff that you mentioned. There is a game that I picked up that's called Papers, Please. It doesn't relate to economics at all, but it is an interesting game that tells a story through kind of a communist sort of, you work at a border thing where you have to ask for people's papers and you've got to confirm that they're the right person and look at their different documents and make sure that they're all correct, and you've got to filter through as many as possible so you can make money so your kids don't die of dysentery or whatever. Mm-hmm. Interesting game if you ever are so inclined. Pretend like you're
Papers, Please.
The graphics on it are very much like old school looking, and there's an option for nudity, which I didn't realize. I was looking through the options. I'm going, nudity? Why would you need nudity? Well, there was apparently one of the additional things, like as the days go on, it becomes more and more complex to verify things. And then you have a scanner in your booth that will allow you to confirm gender and confirm whether or not they have any contraband or, any other things on them.
Yeah.
The tagline is "Papers, Please, a dystopian document thriller."
It's a document thriller. Isn't that like that sounds like Trump's lines in the 2016 campaign against Hillary.
Oh yeah.
Her emails.
Right.
It was a document thriller.
Definitely document thriller.
But now we're like, his tax returns.
Yeah, don't get me started on tax returns.
Yeah, sorry, that's another thing. I got to do my taxes later. It's gonna sting.
Yeah.
But you can't blame somebody for having trouble filling out those forms. I mean,
yeah, especially when TurboTax. I don't think they have a version for millionaires.
You might need to, get something special. I know they have the home business one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one. That does make it.
Well, yeah, for you it would make sense. Yeah.
It makes sense. Yeah, because I have like my regular job.
It's all online these days, right? QuickBooks.
Yeah. You even if you buy it at Costco, they just give you a piece of cardboard with a key.
Yeah.
I think you could download it, but it's updated all the time, and it's just kind of neat.
I've got a very basic tax return, so I don't need to use anything but
You sure don't.
the free version. So let's get on to the last thing. Yeah, about Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah.
Which is about Ben Stein.
Oh my gosh, Ben Stein.
Yeah. Do you remember Win Ben Stein's Money?
Yes. Him and Jimmy Kimmel was his co-host.
Oh, yeah.
Win Ben's the best. That was like my favorite game show.
Oh, really? You watched a lot of those?
I watched a lot of Win Ben Stein's Money.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a game show created by Al Burton and Donnie Brainerd.
Whoever those guys are, yeah.
The geniuses behind Win Ben Stein's Money.
Yeah.
Original episodes ran from July 28th.
It was 1990.
It was 97 to 2003. Those were the original episodes.
Okay. I probably only watched it for the first couple seasons then.
Yeah, the grand prize of $5,000.
$5,000 of Ben Stein's money.
Okay, so here's the interesting thing.
It wasn't actually his money.
Well, okay, so I think the interesting thing is the way that they set it up. He didn't actually put up any of his money.
No.
It was his money because if there was money left in the pool at the end of a season, they set aside a pool of money.
Okay. And then so that would be like Ben Stein's bonus.
Yeah, that would be like a tip or whatever.
A tip, yeah.
So he would win that. That money would probably be provided to him in a 1099, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
maybe it all depends.
Yeah, who knows what the contract says. But
yeah.
But anyway, I just thought it was interesting. It wasn't actually his money. There was no risk of him losing anything. His pool just became lower as other people won.
Yeah, but if you're doing accrual accounting, it was his money.
Yeah, it was just.
Yeah, it was taken from his account receivable. he was okay. There was every time someone won it was a $5,000 deduction from his account receivable from MTV Network. So,
yeah, that's true. True.
He just didn't have the cash yet, but he could.
Yeah, it was and it wasn't his money. It would be his money at the end of the season.
It was, yeah, I know. In like real people's terms, it wasn't. But in Ben Stein's terms, it was his money.
Right.
In his mind, I'm pretty sure he was like, "That's my money."
Yeah. I think more accurately be, "That's my money."
That's my money.
My money.
If you want it, you need to best me in a feat of intellectual contest or whatever.
Yes.
I'm not sure I strung the right words together, but
that's okay. It's okay.
It's a podcast.
It's a podcast.
If people want to have sentences that go in the right order, they should read a book.
Right.
Yeah.
If you want improv and expository speaking, that's us. But anyway,
that's us. That's
the economics teacher, which was Ben Stein.
Yes.
Also related to this, this discussion. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you got the inspiration from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I mean, it just seems like there are a lot of economic sort of things in there.
Wow. You know what? I'm gonna have to watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off again
Yeah.
because now I'm like seeing like, yeah, this you might be onto something.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So yeah, people,
Yes. So here's
listeners, you can get the zine, and then you can Netflix or the Pirate Bay.
yeah.
Ben Stiller's, no, not Ben Stiller's Day Off. Ben Stiller's Day Off. That's a different movie. Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
The John Hughes classic, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Don't accidentally rent Curly Sue because that's not
Curly
going to.
Sue.
Yeah.
Is that another John Hughes?
Yeah, I think that was John Hughes. That was
Probably.
like one of the later John
He did
Hughes.
a lot of movies. He did a lot of, he did the Home Alones.
Yeah.
He did the National Lampoon's Vacation.
Oh, was that John Hughes? I had no idea.
Yeah, I think he wrote the screenplay. I don't know if he directed it, but
yeah, probably not. Probably the screenplay because he did do a lot of screenwriting and
yeah, he did a lot of screenwriting. Yeah, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. That was his.
Del Griffith,
Uncle Buck.
Yeah,
I almost feel like John Candy's character was the same guy in both those movies, even if he had a different name.
Oh, you mean in both?
I mean, in my mind, when I watched them in the theater when I was whatever that age was,
yeah,
I just thought they were the same guy, and also the same guy from Home Alone, right?
Yeah.
Or was that Home Alone 2? I don't know.
Well,
no, Home Alone, the first one. Yeah, John Candy was in there too.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe John Candy is just always John Candy.
But he does have some range as far as his roles, I do believe. I mean, I mentioned previously watching those watch along where you have millennials watching the movies. They did watch both of those, Uncle Buck and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. The people who did watch both of those did mention exactly the same thing, that they were the same guy.
They're the same guy.
Yeah, they were the same character type. And he was basically, the same thing.
But that only makes sense. Like, oh, this character was really cool here, and then let's try it out in a different venue. I mean, that's Hollywood.
Yeah. My favorite scene in Uncle Buck was that whole scene with him and Macaulay Culkin, where they were talking back and forth really fast.
Oh, man.
Back to Ben Stein.
Okay, Ben Stein.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ben Stein's liability. When Ben Stein's, I don't know, assets.
When Ben Stein's account receivable.
It's a new show.
Yeah.
It's a new show.
That's a good show, yeah.
Here is the dramatic reading of the economics teacher from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah.
Now prepare yourself mentally and physically. This is going to be a long ride, okay?
Yes.
Okay. In 1930, Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in an effort to alleviate the effects of the anyone, the Great Depression, passed the anyone, tariff bill, the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act, which anyone raised or lowered tariffs in order to collect more revenue for the federal government. Did it work? Anyone know the effects? It did not work. And the United States sank deeper into the Great Depression. Today we have a similar debate over this. Anyone know what this is, class? Anyone seen this before? The Laffer curve? Anyone know what this says? It says that at this point on the curve, on the revenue curve, you will get exactly the same amount of revenue as at this point. This is very controversial. Does anyone know what Vice President Bush called this in 1980? Anyone? Something DOO economics? Voodoo economics? And thus concludes my dramatic reading. I think I put a little too much
life into it.
Yeah, too much life. I should have.
It's really hard to
deadpan.
Ben Stein he was the deadest pan. That's.
So, do you have anything to say about the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act?
I don't, because it didn't work, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't work.
Yeah.
I just like saying Hawley-Smoot.
Hawley-Smoot.
So yeah, that was my very long-winded what I think of when I think of economy or economics. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. We could probably find more connections
We
there,
should.
but
Yeah. So can I recommend that everybody do a back-to-back reading of the zine and watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
I
And
think that's an excellent recommendation.
then they should send you a like, comment, and subscribe to your podcast in order to let you know that they did that.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. Go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I'm telling them right now.
Okay. In the Twitterverse?
In the Twitterverse.
Oh.
I am. No, I maybe I will. I should write myself a note to that.
I had one last thing. That Washington Post article, which I said I was going to send and I never did send, had a video games centric article that was called "Are Video Games Recession-Proof?" And I think we touched on that a little bit because you said
you mentioned it. Yeah.
You also mentioned like, well, how can you afford these things? The Taylor Swift tickets, right?
Yeah.
It's how can you afford this during a recession? And that is an interesting question. Are video games recession-proof? What are your thoughts on whether or not video games are recession-proof?
Well, here is my thought.
Okay.
Hollywood was recession-proof. Hollywood was depression-proof, right?
Yeah.
The movies took off because people needed that avenue of escape. So if video games, like if their price is something people can afford and they feel they get a lot of value out of it, and it does give them that escape from worrying about the real life stuff for a little bit, then maybe it is a recession proof little industry, because it's providing, some respite to people for a reasonable price.
Yeah.
And
there were a couple of video game crashes, but those were back in the days where games were much smaller experiences.
Yeah.
And now, as you have more stories being told in games, as you have larger and larger environments that you have to explore, games that last hundreds of hours instead of a handful. Right.
And, maybe that's really like, I brought up the Hollywood example. Maybe games are doing a better job of that than Hollywood.
Right.
Because right now Hollywood is like, well, we haven't had movie theaters open and now they're open, but people don't want to go because they got used to streaming. And now all the streaming platforms are like trying to figure out what to do. And they're trying to create these series with engaging content for a long time.
Yeah.
Probably in response to like the more in-depth storytelling in the games.
Oddly enough, there are a lot of Netflix series that are based on games too.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah, so it's like it's a real thing. Yeah.
Hollywood isn't going to die anytime soon.
No, they're not going to die. They just have to, shift and squeak onto something else. Yeah.
The obvious shift is to streaming. I mean, it's like you've even got companies like you've got Paramount Plus, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that, and then that
and Disney and so on and so forth.
There's so many streaming platforms right now, though, and like they're all like figuring out that we need to shift to being able to do advertising to actually pay for our expenses and make a profit, which means they're going to be just like broadcast TV used to be.
Yeah.
Except for a little bit more ability to choose your programming. You remember back in the day when you had a choice of 3 things to watch on TV, and one of them was Hee Haw.
Right, right. Mini Pearl. Talk about economy.
Yeah.
You gotta keep that price tag on your hat.
Yeah, in case you need to return it. Yeah.
Exactly. She was well ahead of her time, I think. That
well ahead of her time.
That Mini Pearl. She was frugal. She was definitely frugal.
Yeah,
but
definitely. And that's why we like Hee Haw, because we all had to be frugal in the 70s. Because I don't know but the baby boomers spent all the money in the 60s. I don't know.
If there was a gang fight between Hee Haw and Sha-Na-Na.
Ooh.
Yeah. What are we thinking here?
Ooh. I don't know, man. I think Bowser's gone down.
Yeah, I think
I think Roy Clark could take out 3 Sha-Na-Na guys, but
yeah. And Mini Pearl fights dirty, I'm pretty sure. I mean,
you know it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and plus all the different things you got. I mean, saxophone versus jug, which is your weapon of choice? The blunt object or the
jug is because once you break the jug, it's a knife.
Yeah. I think that's as good of a place as any to conclude our show. So for those people who want to contribute to your wonderful zine and your creative endeavor,
If people are interested in ordering my stuff, well, you can go to my website, which is partlyrobot.com, or if I did a bit.ly that goes straight to my little web store,
oh, okay.
bit.ly/economy robot.
bit.ly/economy robot, all one word.
All one word.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. I highly recommend, and thank you for mentioning me in the thank yous.
Oh, yeah.
You are welcome to be on the show anytime.
Okay.
So whenever you're back in the Tucson area, definitely look me
Whenever
up.
I get back to the old Pueblo.
The old Pueblo, yes.
Or the Dirty T, as some people call it.
The
Or Tucktown.
who calls it the Dirty T?
I don't know. Somebody called it the Dirty T. I don't remember who did. But
I bet you that was Jesse. That was probably Jesse.
Sounds like a Jesse thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
The Dirty T.
The Dirty T. But anyway,
yeah.
do you have the closing comments on the word economy?
If you're going to buy something, make sure you're buying something that's worth it. How about that?
That's excellent.
Yeah.
My closing comment to the folks at home: maximize your equity by improving your intangible assets and reducing your liabilities. Translation:
there you go.
Don't be an asshat.
Don't be an asshat. Yeah.
Yes.
Remember that. Your reputation is one of your intangible assets. So if you have a reputation for being an asshat, then people might not want to work with you.
Yeah, especially if you live in the Dirty T.
If you live in the Dirty T, you might be an asshat.
You must be. And that is an excellent way to close the show. Thank you so much, Andrew, for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Yep. And on that note, my name is Ben.
And my name's Andrew.
And we've been your hosts. Have a wonderful night. Bye.
All right. Bye.